Hello everybody and welcome to another Destiny build video. So the main gameplay loop idea around this build is your Rift. Your Rift is a weapon in this build. So the idea is you're going to want to go into pretty crowded areas. As you can see, I have 1 enemy, 2, 3, 4, 5 Scion enemies here. Obviously this works on any level of enemy. So I have 5 Scions here, possibly a 6th if this one is in range. Now, our Rift is going to freeze enemies. So it's going to freeze all of these instantly as soon as I place it. And after about a second, once it's placed, a Arc Shockwave is going to go out and shatter all the enemies. It is extremely fun to watch, but with recent changes to Frostpulse, the aspect on the Stasis subclass, freezing an enemy will give you back some class ability energy. So theoretically, the more enemies you hit, you could almost get your full Rift refunded. I'm going to show you it right here. So yet again, there's 5 enemies, possibly a 6th. And if I go ahead and use it, you're going to watch them instantly get shattered with the Shockwave. As you can see, they all get shattered. I even get some stasis shards thanks to our other aspect. We'll get all into that in just a little bit. And as you can see, I already have my Rift. So if I come over here, there is 1, 2 Scions. Go ahead and use it, and it will shatter them, and I get about half of my Rift back already. Now if I go ahead and throw my grenade, which is going to be another key part of our build, it will freeze enemies, and look at that, I already have my Rift back. I have max frost armor, 1 enemy, 2, 3, 4 enemies right here. We'll let them unthaw, and then once they come out, use your Rift, freeze them all, and shatter them with the Arc Shockwave, and even actually got the other guy due to the shatter damage from shattering a frozen enemy. So it is incredibly strong. But that's not the only gameplay loop around this build. So while we're doing this, and I'm going to do it again right here just to try and get back my frost armor, just to show you out this build. As you can see, I'm at a tier 4 on frost armor. Now, Excalibur, which is going to be our main weapon, and yet again, we'll get into all this more detail later. If you go ahead and aim with it, it will convert the energy that you have to block into Overshield, which is pretty amazing. So what you're going to do with the gameplay loop is while you're going ahead and freezing and killing enemies, it shatters them, you get frost armor, you're going to want to melee an enemy. When you get a melee kill with Overshield, it will replenish your full Overshield. It is pretty nice. And if there is no enemies in close proximity, you can always just pull up your guard just for a second and it will reset your Void Overshield timer. It is pretty nice to play with this way. As you can see, I'll just do a little loop right here, freeze some enemies, keep killing them, and as I melee, my frost armor is going up, Void Overshield is going up, and as you can see, I have just shy of full frost armor with a full Overshield. As you can see, my timer is getting low. I'm going to pull up my guard, and it refreshes my Overshield. Go ahead and freeze another enemy, let the Arc Shockwave kill him, get some frost armor, pop up my Overshield again, get a kill, reset my timers. If there was more enemies, I would throw my grenade, freeze them, assuming that I didn't get my Rift back. Actually, there is another enemy. Go ahead and hit him. As you can see, frost armor is reset back up to max timer. So is Void Overshield. Pull up my guard, reset Overshield again. And you just keep going on this insane loop. Now, let me show you how to put this build together. So to start making this build, we're going to begin with our main exotic of choice, which is going to be the Vesper of Radius exotic chest piece. This is going to make our Rifts periodically release the Arc Shockwaves. Like I said, that is what will shatter our enemies that we freeze with Frostpulse automatically. Final blows with these Shockwaves will create an Arc Explosion. So basically every enemy that is frozen will literally be shattered. So you're going to have Stasis Shatter, and they're going to be hit by that Arc Shockwave, which will mean that they will also be exploded into an Arc Explosion. It is pretty insane. Now, there is a whole nother benefit when you have an Arc super equipped, but since we're on primary stasis, there is no need to look into that. But Rift energy will recharge faster when you are surrounded by targets. So the more enemies that are near you, the faster this Rift will come back, regardless of how many enemies you freeze. The main weapon for this build is going to be the exotic glaive Excalibur. Excalibur is going to fire a spread. Equipped with a quick draining shield, blocking damage with your shield will gradually bestow Void Overshield to yourself and nearby allies. You deal additional melee damage while protected by an Overshield, and defeating targets with melee final blows while the Overshield is active will refresh it. So this is how obviously we're going to be allowed to upkeep Void Overshield about all the time, thanks to Excalibur, and this paired with Frost Armor is absolutely insane. So this is a god tier weapon to put with this build. For stats, you're just going to want to have a class at about a 100. That is going to help get your rift back as fast as possible. After that, it is entirely up to you. Personally, I actually had a 130 in grenade stat, so that was I would get back my cold snaps. That would be my second recommendation. After you have a 100 class stat, I would recommend trying to get your grenade stat up, so that way you will be able to have a lot of cold snaps to throw, which will obviously freeze enemies, give you back more rift energy, etc, etc. And for your other weapon slots, aka your kinetic and heavy, go ahead and throw on maybe something that stuns champions, or maybe you just need some boss DPS, you can go ahead and throw that on. It's up to you and what you're running for what weapons you should use. Up next is going to be our subclass, which is going to be Pure Stasis, aka Shadebinder. So going through it pretty quickly here, only because we gotta get through the abilities since they are kind of generic. They're not going to be too impactful, and also because Bungie hates darkness subclasses apparently. There's not really more than one ability per slot in most categories. So we're going to obviously start with our super. You only have Winter's Wrath, a very good one though nonetheless, so that's what you're going to want to have on. For your rift, you can switch to healing or empowering. I highly recommend sticking with healing, but you can put on empowering if you would so like. For your jump, go ahead and put on whatever you feel most comfortable with. Penumbral Blast, obviously you don't really have an option, it's the only one, but it is going to freeze enemies, and it's a nice one to use if you put away your glaive for 2 seconds, throw it at an enemy, and then pull out your glaive and just shatter him with a nice little jab. And then for your grenade, you're going to want Cold Snap. Cold Snap is going to freeze targets on hits, which is going to be obviously very beneficial. So let's move over to the aspects, which are going to be the main customization of the build, with that alongside fragments. For our aspects, we're going to start with Glacial Harvest. Obviously, this is the one that when you freeze targets, it will create stasis shards and allow stasis shards to give you stacks of frost armor when you pick them up. And our second one is going to be Frostpulse. Casting our rift will generate a shockwave that freezes nearby combatants, and this also makes freezing from all sources generate class ability energy. So this paired with Vesper is going to be like a double shockwave. You freeze them all with the Frostpulse shockwave, and Vesper's Arc Shockwave will shatter them automatically. It is so much fun to play with. Now for the fragments, we're going to start with Whisper of Rime. Your frost armor has increased duration and maximum stat count. That's always a good one to have. Whisper of Fractures is going to allow us that when we shatter a frozen target with a melee, it will give us a stack of frost armor. Now this is great because we are going to be shattering enemies a lot with our glaive melee, and that will count as a melee attack, so that will give us some more frost armor. Whisper of Refraction is going to be our third choice. Defeating slowed or frozen targets will grant you class ability energy. Another way we're going to top off our rift energy so that way we can get it back as soon as possible. And finally, we're going to use Whisper of Reversal. While you have frost armor, melee damage slows your target. So this is theoretically going to allow your glaive melee to apply slow and through slow, aka to freeze enemies on hits with your glaive. So Vex Caliber, just jabbing at them with your melee is going to apply slow, and obviously once they hit 100 slow stacks, that means they're going to freeze, and you'll be able to hit them again and shatter them with your glaive melee. Also giving you a frost armor stack through fractures, and also generating stasis shards and picking them up and getting even more frost armor. Now for our armor mods, there's going to be not too many that are vastly important. There are going to be some that are pretty nice to have, especially if you are a big fan of shooting the projectiles from Vex Caliber. But as for the melee, which is the main focus of the build, there isn't too many mods that synergize well. So we're going to start here with our helmet with 2 special ammo finders. Just another way to try to generate more ammo for Vex Caliber. And speaking of that, we're going to use a Void Siphon, so that way when we get rapid kills with those Vex Caliber projectiles, it will generate an orb of power. Now for your gauntlets, we're going to use a Void Loader. This is going to help us just increase the reload speed of our Vex Caliber. And then a Bolstering Detonation so that it will grant class ability energy when we cause damage with a grenade. And Firepower so that our grenade final blows create orbs of power. For your chest piece, these are probably the most important mods in your entire thing, and that's going to be the resistance mods. Go ahead and put on whatever resistance mods are going to match the activity that you're doing. I highly also recommend throwing on a melee damage resistance, since you're always going to be at point blank range with a lot of enemies. For your boots, run 2 recuperations. That way an orb gives you a bonus 70 hit points, and a Void Scavenger so that your Void weapons, aka Vex Caliber, gets bonus reserves when you pick up ammo. And for your bond, Distribution, Bomber, and Reaper are good choices. Distribution and Bomber just to help get back some ability cooldown when we use our class ability, aka our Rift, and Reaper so that once we use our Rift, our next weapon Final Blow will spawn an Orb of Power guaranteed. And last but not least, the artifact is going to have a few mods for us as well. It's going to enhance this build. Frost Renewal is going to be a great one, so that is why we have Frost Armor. Taking critical damage will release a burst that freezes all nearby combatants and will grant us Frost Armor, so that's going to be a pretty nice one. Refresh Threads and Elemental Coalescence are also going to be pretty good options. That way we can generate a little more Stasis Shards, and picking up a Stasis Shard is going to give us a little bit more energy to our least charged ability, which is going to be pretty nice since we're going to be picking up a ton of them. And last but not least is going to be Shield Crush. So that was while you have Frost Armor or a Void Overshield on, your melee will recharge faster and deal increased damage, aka our Penumbral Blast when we throw it by taking off our glaive for about 2 seconds, throwing it, and then putting our glaive back on. So that is going to be everything you need to put this build together. This build is incredibly strong as I'm doing a Grandmaster difficulty right here. It is also incredibly fun. I mean, not just the fact that you get Void Overshield all the time, and also Frost Armor as well, but it's also incredibly fun in the aspect that you actually get to watch them freeze when you put a Rift and then literally just shatter and you do nothing. It is so much fun to watch the freeze and the shatter and the explosion from Shatter and the Arc Shockwave from when it kills an enemy. It is so much fun using this build. So if you're looking for something a little fun to get back into the game but also very strong, very good, then this is a great one. It's really easy to get Vexcalibur nowadays. You don't need any of the Catalyst 2, making it even easier. And of course, Stasis is pretty easy to get now. Everything's pretty easy to get for this build, so it's not very hard to get this and put it together, to have a lot of fun with it, to obviously go out and just do a bunch of solo ops, fire team ops, pinnacle ops, whatever you may need to go do in Destiny as Call to Arms approaches, and of course Renegades up as well. So with all of that being said, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think about the build in the comments below. It is a very fun build, very unique synergy with obviously Vesper of Radius and Frostpulse, so let me know what you think about even just that in the comments below as well. And if you like this build and you want to see more, then why not hit the like button, subscribe, comment, share, all that good jazz, because we got a ton of build videos on the channel for you to enjoy. We also obviously are going to have a bunch in the future coming, so why not stick around and join the family. With all that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, I will see you around the tower.